will be centered on the candidates. Aaron is going to step in for Mr. Bailey for a little bit. He's running behind in traffic.
Done.
Feel like we've done this
And
before.
then Mike
We
will
have.
take over with moderating these four gentlemen.
Of course, it's always a pleasure.
Smile, everybody.
Okay, so we're going to give each one of these gentlemen 5 to 7 times minutes to introduce themselves and their platforms. Sheriff, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? Come on, do a little better. How we doing today? That is the energy we need to win. We need to win Republicans this time. The Democrats have had us for too long. It's been 8 years. My life has not been the same. I am a 30-year cop at the DuPage County Sheriff's Office, and in the last 8 years, my life has dramatically changed. DuPage County turned blue. Wow, so there's so much gun violence, so much craziness in the city that they got so sick of it that they moved into my county next door, DuPage County. And what'd they do? They voted the same way they did in the city. And now we're blue, the biggest Republican stronghold. I've been a Downers Grove Township Republican committeeman for 27 years. We have been the most powerful Republican stronghold in this state since, I don't know, in 8 years, it started to atrophy. In the last 3 election cycles, it's completely changed. So basically, I just want to go really quick. I know we're on a timer here, and I hope somebody reminds me when I'm talking too loud or long. 30 years police, 6 years. I did all financial crime analysis and detectives. I investigated $1 million embezzlers, drug cartels, retail theft, rings, all the really big financial crimes. During that time, I created a digital forensics laboratory. It was both for sex crimes and financial crimes just to address these big problems, and they have been great tools for us. I did 3 years auditing my own agency as an accreditation manager. I did 12 years running our budget. Now, I don't run a business, but I run a government business, and there's a big difference. I can't hire a man and a woman and pay them different. There's a lot of things that are allowed in private business that aren't allowed in government business, so it's like apples and oranges. So what I have is a 504-person headcount, 300 contracted employees. I supervise over 800 people, $80 million budget. I am the chief financial officer. I review every arbitrated award and contract. So that's what I do. And guess what, folks? With an $80 million budget for 12 years, you know what the difference between me and my neighbor next to me in Cook County? I've never gone over my appropriation. I've been within budget every single year for 12 years. I have taken local government and done things that can be replicated through the entire state of Illinois. I've combined police forces, 40 police forces, made MERIT, Metropolitan Emergency Response and Investigative Team, where all your police work together to get 3 times more cops, twice as fast, simply by consolidating our resources to make you safe. Chicago needs emergency management. Springfield needs emergency management. This entire state needs emergency management right now. Crime is out of control. That's because of the Safety Act, which I vow to get rid of. The day one, Safety Act is gone. Executive order. We're violating federal law. It should not be allowed. It's causing us to spend billions. So think about this, folks. We're being washed out. 800,000 people were lost in the last census, and 700,000 illegal immigrants now occupy their space. Your space. The people who are sick of being in here and being in Illinois dealing with this, they leave. They go to Alabama, like what I was thinking about doing, and that's why I'm doing this. But guess what? Then we're replaced. You got to come through me. These are my people. Those are Pritzker's words. Well, guess what, folks? You're my people, the state of Illinois, citizens. It's the citizens that are important. We are being run over. We are being run over by a corrupt government, by J.B. Pritzker, who calls the cops thugs, a mayor who calls us a sickness to be eradicated. Well, I say From the police to them, you're the sickness to be eradicated, and I will be the first governor to come out of a jail instead of going into a jail. I will be still a certified police officer for the first 2 years of being governor, and they're all going to a jail. A felony starts at $300, folks, not 300 million. Right. And when you look at our road repairs, guess what? $308 million were swept out of our motor vehicle tax fund. That was by J.B. Pritzker on something that had a 2016 amendment and said that you cannot, that money is solely for road repair. But they swept 300 million, which means not spending the capital. That's why you have potholes. That's why your roads are a wreck, because they're sweeping money to pay for the illegal aliens that they're pulling in to replace us. And they are not taking care of their responsibilities. Local government distributed funds, same thing. That's your local way to take care of this. They got rid of our local and our state fixes for road repair, infrastructure repair. It's all being swept. When you sweep 308 million, that means you're holding on to the capital and you're not spending it. And that's what they're doing with that fund. They are taking everything from you. They're taxing your taxes. I will make Illinois safe again, and I will make crime illegal again. Thank you very much.
Del Mar next.
Right.
Sure, let's go.
So thank you, Sheriff, for the awesome introduction. I mean, your dedication to police force in Illinois will be in great hands should you be one of the four of us that are elected governor.
Thank you.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, you have four outstanding candidates before you. That's what's exciting about this Republican primary. What's more exciting is we have an opportunity to coalesce and develop and grow as a party here in Illinois. You have one of the greatest law enforcement officers. You have a small businessman over here that has gone and just blown the doors off of it. You have an analyst right here that knows the ins and outs of every policy in Illinois. I'm none of the three. I'm a grassroots activist starting out in Palatine. My running mate is a Southern Illinois farmer. You know, if anybody was to say to me, Aaron, you're going to be up here at Gang Guns, you know, running as Lieutenant Governor with Darren Bailey 6 months ago, I would have said you're absolutely out of my mind. I thought that I would be up here with my other colleagues running for governor with myself. But then Darren called me and asked me, he said, Aaron, you're going to run for governor, but you're from Cook County. You're the Cook County Republican chairman. I'm one of the biggest conservative rights guys in Southern Illinois. I was the former nominee. Let's combine forces. I said, no, that's all good. I've already run for lieutenant governor. I've already been a bridesmaid. It's my time to be a bride. I want to be upstage with the big guys. And he goes, Aaron, this is our opportunity. Let's move the egos aside, because Darren and I hadn't always gotten along, right? Darren actually endorsed my last two opponents. Not a great way to start a relationship, if you can say that. But he said, Aaron, you know what it's like in the city of Chicago. You're not just a resident of Cook County, you're the chairman. You've been the chairman twice. You grew up in the city of Chicago. You went to Chicago Public Schools. You're not talking about it, you're not analyzing it, you're living it. So you're right, Darren, it is my ego. So let's set that aside and let's combine for one goal. For one mission, and that's to be J.B. Pritzker. That's it. That's it. All the rest of it doesn't even matter. All the fighting, all the arguing, none of it matters if we can't do the one thing that everybody in this room agrees on. And why do I think Darren and I are the team to do it? Because we're the only group that's not just from the north. All four of us are up here. We have a ton of brothers and sisters in Southern Illinois, farmers, agriculture, union members, that are prison workers, that work for the Secretary of State, for teachers, all of them, that are ruby red Republican. Out of 102 counties in Illinois, 97 of them are bright red. It's just the 7 that hurt the rest of us. Woo! So Darren can speak to the agriculture of our state. He can tell you how the food comes from the ground and comes to our table. I can talk about the city of Chicago. There's only really 2 rules. You hear dogs barking, get on top of the car. You hear gunshots, you get underneath the car. It's pretty simple. I can speak the language of Chicago, right? These are the things, and this is the team, the generational team that can come and do something that we haven't been able to do in the last 8 years, and that's BJB. So as you compare and you contrast the stories and the resumes of the people here, remember that. We got one candidate for governor who's already got $50 million in AMID behind him. He didn't get what we wanted 4 years ago. JB won. I'll be the first one to tell you. He did. Darren went back and looked at all the things that he did great, and he looked at, more importantly, all the things he didn't do great. I think that's part of the reason I'm standing here. That's right. We're combining the North and the South. One team, one vision, different roles, same goal. You know, ladies and gentlemen, when you go on March 17th and you cast your vote, it's not for who the handsomest is. Clearly Ted would win, right? It's not for who can shoot downstairs the best. I'm willing to bet Jim Medrick can shoot the wings off a mosquito, for sure. And if it comes down to who can build a business from the ground on up and tell you the life story, Rick Heider is the one that can do that. But Darren and I are the ones that can take the whole state and unite the Republican Party. I'm excited to be here with these gentlemen because for the first time, we're not killing each other, right? 4 years ago, $145 million was spent on a Republican primary, and what did we get? 4 more years of J.B. Pritzker. So as we go through this, and as you hear the different stories, remember, on Election Day, it is not a Valentine's Day, it's St. Patrick's Day, but it's a day that you get to make a strategic chess move to pick 2 candidates. You might not even like one. There's some people here that don't particularly care for me. It's okay, Steve, I still like you. You know, you're making a chess move for the team that not just represents the northern side, but also represents the south, and that can take the fight and put it on J.B. Pritzker's door and not be the punching bag. So thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. My name is Rick Heidner, obviously running for the governor of our great state of Illinois. And I'd like to give you a little background on me. When we started out in life, my brother was 2 years old, I was 1 year old, and my mother and father divorced, and my mother had to raise us all by herself. So I started working very, very young, and my brother and I both started working 7, 8 years old, and we just kept helping and helping and helping as much as we can so that we could have some kind of a life together. And we really struggled. And my work ethic became incredible because I didn't want to see anyone suffer the way that we were and my mother was. So that resonated everything for me to become what I've become. So I realized that you have to be in your own business if you want to be successful. So I had my own business by the time I was 16 years old, and I just kept growing it and growing it and growing it. Never went to college. It was just all hard work. And through that, you know, developing so many businesses and growing to the way we were, we have about 800 employees now and 4 major businesses. And I also employ a lot of off-duty and retired policemen. So, you know, why am I running? Why am I running? The biggest reason I'm running was because I couldn't stand to see people being hurt the way they're hurt in Illinois. I couldn't stand to see this revolving door that's going on with our justice system. You know, I've talked to policemen and they arrest somebody and 4 days later they're arresting the same person. People are getting hurt, people are getting killed, people are getting raped. I mean, it makes me so sick, it makes me so ill. And then I see what's happening with my businesses and with the taxation, the constant taxation. Here in the fall session, everyone was down there. All they were talking about is how much more they're gonna tax you, how much more they're gonna add to whatever. 45-cent increase on the tolls. I mean, where does it end? My business, one of my businesses since J.B. Pritzker has become governor, my tax has gone up 17%. Just one business. Our gas tax is the second highest in the entire country. Our real estate taxes in the entire country were the highest. And all they do is take. All they want to do. And I want to make the state of Illinois a state of making money. We don't need to add any more tax. We don't have to raise any tax. We just have to collect tax and do more business. Then we'll be able to lower tax. We'll be able to, we need to repeal the Safety Act. It has to go away. We have to empower our policemen again. We have to make sure that they know that we have their back the way that they protect us. They're a brotherhood. They want to help each other. When I see ICE come in here and then our policemen are not able to help them at all, our policemen aren't able to turn over hardened criminals that they have in jail, they're not allowed to call the federal government or ICE and say, take this guy, he's bad. No, they'll get in huge trouble if they do that. It's insanity. Our policemen it's a brotherhood, they want to help each other, they want to take care of each other. It's what we should be doing. You know, I was talking, somebody interviews me after our Springfield and Peoria run that we just did. And one of the gentlemen from the Tribune gives me an interview, and he's telling me that I'm wrong, that the Safety Act is good, and why, you know, crime is down. Crime is not down. They changed what crime is. That's what they did. They changed what the schools are doing. What is acceptable? A third grade education? That's acceptable? We need vouchers. We need school vouchers. The schools should be they should be running, taking care of our children the way, and teaching them. And if you're, as a parent, you're not happy with that, you should be able to put your child in a private school. You know, whatever we're spending per child, let's just say it's $30,000 in a lot of these districts. You know, if we give somebody a voucher for half of that, just think how then, you know, your real estate taxes will come down because you're you know, and your children get the education you want. There's just so many things. The difference between the gentleman behind me and myself is that I can bring a business mind, okay, to our government. My idea is absolutely to bring all kinds of business, and if we have to give them some kind of a tax break, when they create huge tax, you're just giving back some of the money that they're making for us, for them to bring jobs here, for them to build. Everything goes on, you know, you build a new building, you got more real estate taxes, you employ a bunch of people. This is what I've done my whole life. And I have to tell you something, I was thinking on the way here, in Republican, Democrat, I've been working, I've had my own business for over 45 years, almost 50 years. And every single time, especially in the presidential election, okay, every time there's a Republican in office, I prosper, I build, I do wonderful things. I build buildings and I employ people, and then not only do I employ people, also all the new stores that I open for other people that rent for me, they're employing all kinds of people. But every single time there's a Democrat that comes in office, every single time, all I do is spend those years, whether it's 4 years or 8 years or whatever it is, trying to save my business. So I hope you understand. I'm new at this, but my heart's in the right place. I have no alternative motive. I want to come here, I want to fix our state, and then I want to retire.
Ed, would you take the stage for us? All right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for this great organization here, an amazing place. My name is Ted Dorowski, I'm running for governor. And my big motivation is we should be a top 5 state in this country. We should be one of the best states for job creation, for wage growth, for population growth, for education. We're not. We're a bottom 5 state. And a lot of that has to do with Governor Pritzker being in office for 7 years now, and the Democrats controlling the both chambers of the legislature. Look, with the great position our state has in the geography in this country, right? With the lake, with the Chicago's economic engine, with the infrastructure, with the universities, with our amazing history, we should be competing with Florida, with Texas, right? With Tennessee, with North Carolina. But we're not. If you look at every major statistic under Governor Pritzker the last 7 years, we're the 4th worst in economic growth. We can't spit off taxes. We can't create prosperity because of that. If you look at wage growth, 6th worst. If you look at job growth, 5th worst. We're the bottom. And that's sad. We should not be there. I want to change that. Now, it might sound crazy that I say we should be a top 5 state, but it's not crazy.
Thank you.
You only have to go back a few decades ago when we were that kind of state. When my parents immigrated here
Cheers, my
to
friend.
Chicago and to Illinois, my father's state communist Poland. He came to Chicago, he came to Illinois. When my mother escaped Ecuador, she didn't escape Ecuador, she left Ecuador when she was a 19-year-old. She came right here to Chicago, she came to Illinois. And why? Because this was the place that you could grit it out, you could make it work, you could find your freedom, you could find your prosperity, and you can live your American dream. And that's what they did. And you know, I'm a source of that, right? I'm following up what they did. And they love to hear, by the way, they both came here legally, in case you have any questions.
There you go, yeah.
And they both became U.S. citizens, right? That's even better.
All right.
All right, so I say all that, and I also, many of you will know that I have worked at the Illinois Policy Institute I worked there for 6 years, and WirePoints for the last 8. And I've been fighting for change in Illinois tirelessly for those 15 years. I've traveled the state, I've been with grassroots groups, I've written and researched everything. I've had so much of our work in the Wall Street Journal, in Fox News, and the New York Times, anywhere. And it's because we've been fighting for lower taxes, we've been fighting for better schools, we've been fighting the out-migration, we've been fighting the loss of companies, and it's really sad. It's really sad what these guys have done to our state, so we need to fight back. My 15 years have been phenomenal, and on day one when I start as governor, I don't need to figure out what's going on, because I've been doing it for the last 15 years. 2, thank you. 2, I know that other groups are talking about doing Doge. I've been doing Doge for 15 years, so that's a big part of my role. And anyway, I entered with that passion. A little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. I mentioned I was born in Chicago, right? Polish father, a Latina mother, had 2 siblings. My parents were assimilators. When they came here, they said, Ted, my siblings, you're going to be American. You're going to learn English. And that was huge. Assimilation was huge, and education was huge. They said, you're going to be super educated. So I finally listened to my parents when I was in the 8th grade, and I started studying. And it was great because I got to work with Citibank in Mexico for 6 years. I got to work in Poland with Citibank for 9 years. And just had an amazing international experience. And look, two things that really matter to me as it relates to this discussion, and it relates to the store we're in. I got to be in Poland, I got to work in Poland, I got to see where my father was from. My father hated communism, he hated socialism, that's what he escaped from, that's why he came to America, and we have to defend the hell against those socialist and communist policies that are coming in now. And I also got, working in Poland for 9 years, also, man, I got to work with people who were so fervent about getting away from the communism and moving towards free markets and capitalism. And I got to work with them day in and day out for 9 years. So that's that. I had 2 children. 2 of my children were born in Mexico. 2 of my children were born in Poland, which is kind of fun. But I brought them home to become Americans. That was key when they were, the oldest was in the 6th grade. Great kids. Been married for 31 years. My wife put up with me as we moved around, and she's a great wife, so happy with that. And so last thing I want to say is closing. You guys have, there's 4 of us here running, you have a choice. And the big choice has to be, let me just clarify, do we all want Pritzker out of office? Yeah! Okay. If that's the #1 goal, you're going to have to figure out who here has the best chance of beating Pritzker. Now I'm going to be a little biased and say it's me. I live in Cook County. My running mate's from Cook County as well. She's an ER doctor, works in the safety net hospital, so she's very principled. We know how to work Cook County in the suburbs. That's #1. #2, I mentioned the half Polish, half Latino. That allows me to go to speak to the Hispanic crowd in Spanish churches. I've been going to the Polish community, the Slavic community. They are freedom-loving people. They will come out and vote against Pritzker, trust me. 3, I've got the experience that I've had for a long time to manage. I want to use that with government to negotiate the right things for all of us. And if you look, there's one group among us who's building coalitions. Dick Uline, which is previously with the Bailey campaign, now with us, biggest conservative donor. Family Institute head David Smith, pro-life, pro-family, was with the Bailey campaign, now with us. We are gathering endorsements. We just got one from Peoria County last week. We got one from the Wheeling Township recently. We are getting the coalitions. I've got the donor base, Chicago, downstate, and DQI, and together with the grassroots, I need you. We can beat Pritzker. So thank you for being here, and look forward to talking to you more. We've had some unusual things happen this evening, and we're going to add one more to the pool. Mr. Darren Bailey has 2 minutes left of Aaron's.
No pressure.
2 minutes.
Is there a topic or is there?
Yes.
The intro, all right, 2 minutes, we can make that happen. Well, God bless you for being here tonight. I love this place, I love this venue of business. This is what America this is what built America, this is what we stand for, and this is what we must protect. I want to start by just saying thank you so much for your prayers and your concerns and your cards and just everything through the tragedy that Cindy and I experienced. We certainly saw the best of Illinois, and we thank you for that. We're starting a 6-day bus tour. This is the first stop of 19 stops over the next several days. Miss Cindy is with me tonight. Everywhere I go, everyone asks, where's Cindy at? Our grandson Finn is doing amazing. So again, thank you so much for your prayers. I think everybody here, for the most part, you know who I am. You know what I stand for. As far as being involved and knowing the system, I served for 17 years on the North Place School Board in our hometown. Served the last 12 of those as board president. Cindy and I went on to start Full Armor Christian Academy. So school choice both ends. We know what it should look like, and we know what it's going to look like. I went on to run a state representative. I mean, I'm a farmer. I farm 12,000 acres. I have a trucking company and an excavating business, and I set all that aside because I was sick and tired of tax increases. And when my state representative in the most conservative district in the state in southeast Illinois started supporting these tax increases, I did something about it. I didn't talk about it. I did gripe about it, and that's what got me here. I served a term as a state rep. During that term, this thing called COVID hit, when no one else would do anything. And friends, I tried to get other people to do something, okay? I am not an attorney, never sued anyone in my life. When no one else would do anything, we took up the gauntlet and we sued J.D. Pritzker. And we won that lawsuit.
Yeah.
I went on to serve in the Senate because I wanted to, that's the, part I thought I had 2 minutes.
You did have 2 minutes.
I am sorry. Thank you. All right.
It's like
All right, folks, we will be going to the Q&A. As you may have heard, we will be asking, probably starting on with Senator Bailey, as you might not call you that. Moving down, the second question will start with Mr. Drosky, and so forth and so on. There are 4 or 5 questions here, and we will start with PETA litigation. I'm sure nobody's interested in that. Oh, could we ask you please to be standing near your chair? Our sound wizard finds that it might be a little bit more easy to control things. So litigation challenging the constitutionality of the Illinois Communities Act has been ongoing for 3 years now. More gun bills are already under consideration in the legislature. If passed, signed into law, more litigation will ensue. So the question is, what actions will you take to get the Attorney General to halt Illinois' defense of these lawsuits?
So again, we understand we've got an up-road hill probably here in Illinois. That value of me serving as a state rep and as a state senator, building trust, maybe not trust, respect. Respect's the word. Because I did the time. I'm the only one here that stood up in the General Assembly and fought for you the entire time. But the interesting thing is I had respect for the people on the other side of the aisle. And friends, 4 years ago when I ran, and when we won that primary, everybody else picked up the ball and they went home. Nobody got out to try to turn the vote out. Only 43% of all Illinoisans showed up to vote. That's something we must unite and coalesce, because when we win in November, It is going to send shockwaves across this nation when we stop J.B. Pritzker dead in his tracks. So I think that alone is going to bring people to the table. Who else in this room, when J.B. Pritzker passed the magazine capacity ban, who else in this room put their guns on the table and said, here they are, come and get me? Okay? You know who created and started the Void the Floyd movement. We've got some people on the other side of the aisle that are interested in this, but under J.B. Pritzker, they just haven't been able to have the nerve, the gall to stand up and protect, probably, aside from the First Amendment, the most other important amendment, the Second Amendment. So I've been there, I've done that, I've showed you. You know, it's a bold and courageous thing to have to stand up and make a statement and see what the consequences are. I am a life member of the NRA. I'm a life member of the ISR. I'm a life member of Gun Save Lives. I put my money where my mouth is. You know that. So I truly believe that when we win with these shockwaves, the respect that I already have, the knowledge of how it all works, we're going to come together and we're going to be able to slowly, we're going to focus on affordability, safety, and education, because that's what's killing Chicago, that's what's hurting everybody all around this state. We're going to earn the respect by the way we move, by the way we communicate, and I believe we will be able to start to roll back some of this nonsense.
Ted, you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay, the question was, what actions will you take to get the Attorney General to halt Illinois defense of PICA lawsuit? And may I remind the candidates that there's a 2 to 3 minute window on the responses?
On the what? On the response. Okay, you know, it's pretty obvious what's happening here in Illinois. Two things are happening. Physical security is a major risk. People are not secure anymore physically. In economic security, we know about the property taxes, we know about the gas taxes, we know about the cell taxes, we know about the sales taxes. Economic security is a mess, and people are losing their opportunity here in Illinois. Now we're talking about physical security, and it bothers me, and it's something I've written a lot, and I do respect what Darren has done here, but it bothers me so much that our entire public security is a mess, right? Our police, the morale of our police officers is at a dramatic low, with Pritzker not defending it and not backing his police. With Brandon Johnson effectively wanting to get rid of police, we have a real problem. We have prosecutors who won't prosecute, right? A policeman grabs somebody, arrests them, takes them in, those prosecutors put them right back on the street, same day. And even if they do get prosecuted, the guy sentencing aren't doing the sentences. And that's why these people are back. So there's a lot that has to be done. I want to talk about that more later. But obviously on things like PICA, we have to, of course, get rid of it. We have to get rid of all these different laws that are trying to put more liability on the gun makers and trying to take away your rights. Now, as it relates to getting change, we know that we're facing supermajorities, right? Supermajorities on the other side. Nothing will be easy for us. Whoever wins here, nothing will be easy. So the question is going to be, again, who can reach over to the other side of the aisle, communicate, negotiate, and get something done? That's number one. Number two, and I think it's one of the biggest things, the next 4 years for me are a campaign. As governor, I won't have the luxury of thinking that the legislature is going to do what we want. We need to get out there and campaign, persuade. It's what I've been doing with WirePoints, what I did with IPI, and you got to go win the people. I think that these guys are so extreme now, Pritzker and the legislature, they're so extreme that they're independents, they're centrists, they're Democrats who voted for Pritzker, who will now listen if they think that the person in front of them is persuasive and they trust. And I will argue that that's my goal, is to go out there and win those independents, win those centrists who think that these laws, not just these laws on guns and rifles, etc., but also on stuff in our schools, stuff in our hospitals. They're so extreme, I think we can win the argument. So I look forward to doing that.
Mr. Becker, would you enlighten us? Would you care to hear the question again?
I think I'm good, thank you. So, our Second Amendment rights, for 250 years, our veterans, our people that have fought for us so that we can defend ourselves, and so that we can make sure that our families are safe. We deserve this. Blood was shed, people died. It's impossible for us not to have these rights. And for them to want to, and I'm talking about, obviously we want safety, that's everything, but we have a right to protect ourselves. I have my son back there, he's my gun expert, by the way, and anything that has to do with guns, I usually go to him with. He's even gotten some patents now to help with our Army and Marines and things like that. So it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. We have guns. We need to have our guns. We want to protect our family. We all need to do that. We all need to be able to protect ourselves and our family. So yes, I would definitely want to. And I'm talking about all different kinds of arms. So I don't know exactly what they want to do to us. They want to disarm us so that only the criminals have guns. That's not going to work. We need to be safe. We need to be safe. I only feel safe when I have our home protected like that. So thank you.
Don't need it repeated. Whoop, if I could turn this thing on though. Hello? Okay, there we go. So let's start with this. I am the sheriff of the second biggest county in this state. For 7 years, I've done this job, and we've tallied data. See, I don't want Purdue kids from a college telling me how to do police work, how to stop gun violence, how to stop crime. They don't know. They do their studies, they send them to us, and we're supposed to listen to them. Nope. We do our own data. And you know what my inmates tell me after 7 years of data collection? The reason why the carjackings are so high in Illinois is because they know you don't have guns. Guess what the definition of insanity is? Repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. 13 years, folks. We're the highest murder rate in the entire nation with the most gun laws. It's not working. It has not worked. It just simply doesn't work. So I was involved in the PICA thing. I did a letter that didn't make me very popular with a lot of the Democrats, saying that I would not go to your doors and take your guns away from you. I refused. I put a letter out and said, will not do it. Will not come to law-abiding citizens' homes, and we have not. Since that law, you know what? Here's the funny thing. Since that law was incepted, about 0.5% of the total of all gun owners in Illinois have not registered. Less than 0.5%. And you know how many of us police agencies are endorsing that, or enforcing that, I should say? 0. We know it's as stupid as you. That you know and we know that this whole law is a joke. I've never really seen this in my career where we've all communally, citizens and law enforcement, said a law is so dumb that we're going to ignore it and not enforce it because it is that ridiculous. So instead, what I've done, and I'm having an event on the 29th at Law Gun Supply in Aurora, where we're building a new coalition. What we want to do, and it's not avoid the void, it's actually void the void. We want to avoid that. A piece of plastic should not be able to say you have a right that the Constitution has already given you. Look it up. It's already in cursive, which you don't teach in school anymore. It already exists. We don't need a FOID card to tell us that we should have our guns. So we are working on a coalition to where we're going to work with gun manufacturers, gun shop owners, and gun owners that have resources to build a coalition and start building legislation to stop all this nonsense. I vow to work with all of our gun manufacturers and gun owners, our gun shops, to create the huge coalition of legislators who are going to start to attack this legislatively because it's not right. What the people in my jail say when they see that circular symbol that says no guns, that means I'm in charge. Here's the deal, folks, and this is just the way it is. This is the truth. This is crime. This is Illinois. Every single day, people run up off the highway and put a gun in your face because they know you're not armed. They know that if they take your car, they take your stuff, that the Safety Act will let them go if they're eventually caught. What they do know, here's another fun fact, only 4% of all Chicago gangbangers actually pull the trigger. They don't need to. You're unarmed. If you display a gun, they back off. That's whether gangbanger or civilian. And they know that. They're smart enough to know what the laws are. I'm assuming that's the alarm that tells me I'm going to stop. But what I will do is I will be the only person with a law enforcement background that has a coalition of gun owners and gun manufacturers who will create legislation that will undo all the harm that's been done to our gun laws. So thank you very much.
The next question goes to Ted Dabrowski, and it's an education question. The setup here is, until spring 2025, when the Illinois State Board of Education revised the Assessment of Readiness Test, relaxing its standards. Prior to that, reading proficiency scores for Illinois school children hovered in the mid to upper 30% range. That's terrible. And when that was concerned, it was in the 25 to 29% range. What is your plan to implement real
What's up, brother?
For reading grade level. I couldn't believe it, right? 2%, it had to be wrong. It had to be wrong, but it wasn't. And I wrote about that, and I expanded the project, and I found that the same thing was happening in Peoria, in Rockford, in Waukegan, in Cicero. So I did a big report, and that report ended up going national, and the Wall Street Journal picked it up. And they did their lead editorial on Illinois and its failures, and it was called Illinois' Shocking Report Card. They're failing their kids and covering it up. How do they cover it up? With high graduation rates, all these baloney statistics to make parents think that their kids are that they're reading and they're doing math, but they're not. So I did that thing, and the moderator in the debate 4 years ago asked Governor Pritzker, Governor, about that Wall Street Journal report. Tell us what you think. And I was waiting there for Pritzker to say something empathetic, something about our kids, saying, gosh, we need to do better. These are our children. He didn't. What he did is he kind of just rolled back like this, and he said, oh, that Wall Street Journal report, that information was given to them by a right-wing Carnival Barker organization. They're wrong. It's just wrong. And at that moment, that's when I knew I was going to run, because he lied to the people of Illinois. He threw 8,000 Decatur kids under the bus. He didn't care that those kids can't read, and he didn't have a plan to do anything. And guess what? 4 years later, guess how many kids in Decatur read, the third grade black children, how many of them read at grade level today? 2%. Still the same. No change. He's done nothing. So what will I do? Number one, no kid will go to the 4th grade if he or she can't read in the 3rd grade. Florida does that. Mississippi's doing it now, and it's been a big change. Number two, raise the standards. Make them the highest in the country, not lower the standards. We're not going to kid around and pretend our kids can read. Let's get obsessed about that. Also important, anyway, those are the kind of things we have to change, but my goal will be to obsess about literacy. I will champion literacy like no governor's ever championed literacy, because you can't have a republic if your kids can't read. You can't have a workforce if your kids can't read, right? And you're going to have more dependence and more crime. If you guys Google Wirepoints and Ted Dabrowski, you will see my work on education, and you will see how passionate I am about it and how I will bring about change. Thank you very much.
I'm just finding more time.
Do you want the setup or just want the question? Okay. Until spring of 2025, when the Illinois State Board of Education revised the Assessment of Readiness Test, on which the standards have been relaxed compared to previous years. Prior to that, our reading proficiency among Illinois grade schoolers was at between 35 and 39% consistently. As to math, it was consistently in the 25 to 29% range. That's atrocious scores. What is your plan to implement for real improvement in Illinois' education system?
So they didn't just do it with education. They did it with crime too. And this is the way they try to trick us and fool us and continue to do what they're doing to make our state just their fiefdom, okay? I'm sorry to say this, and I'll say 80%, and I'm gonna be very kind, but the school system right now isn't really doing much or anything for our children. What they're doing is they become a political power. That's what they've done. They're just a whole nother political power, and they'll come at you, and they'll do things, just so that they get what they want. So it's very simple for me, again, back to the business. But you have to make them accountable. You make them accountable by giving school choice, okay? And like I said before, I don't know, I'm gonna say that I read somewhere it's $30,000 per child for us to educate a child. And if you're not happy with the way your child's being raised or being taught, if you're not happy with the progress that they're doing, then what you do is you take a voucher. We'll call it $15,000, half of what we're paying. And by the way, in the private sector, for $15,000, you're gonna get your child educated incredibly, just absolutely incredibly, okay? And it's like, oh, Rick, well, what's gonna happen when our schools, start emptying and there's, well, if they do their job, they won't empty, okay? They won't empty. And if they do empty, guess what? We'll rent them to the private sector. We don't have to sell them to them. If we have to sell them to them, we'll sell them to them. But we'll rent them to them and let them educate our kids. Let them be accountable. If you make teachers accountable for teaching your children, if they think that they're gonna lose their job or lose the amount of money that they make, and by the way, we pay our teachers an incredible amount of money. And I'm not saying taking any of that away from them. I'm just telling you, we have to make sure they're doing their job and they're not a political party.
So, let me get this thing. Oh, there we go. So here's the thing. Again, part of my job, I'm in the second biggest county in this state, and I deal with the second biggest jail population, right? So I learn a lot from our criminal element, because these are the people who get arrested in our state and end up in our facility. So over 50% of the people we get, they might be 25 years old, 30 years old, they can't even read or write, right? So tell me this. In a 2-year period of time, I can take somebody completely illiterate and I can get them their GED high school equivalency, because we do that in mass in the jail. Thousands of people have gotten their GEDs in my jail in the last 7 years. And I can slap college on them. And then I can do small engine repair, horticulture, indoor hydroponics. I make farmers, truck drivers, welders, tilers, drywallers, and then it can orate a written report, all in a 2-year period of time. So I can take somebody illiterate, get them through high school, college, job training in 2 years. What are they doing in our school system for 12 years? I mean, really, folks? Come on. I can do this in a correctional facility in 2 years. They can't do it in 12 years in our normal school facilities. That is a joke. That is horrible. That's an atrocity. We need to have school choice to create competitiveness like the colleges. We need to also really push for homeschooling. That's another competitive enterprise, right? Wouldn't you like to have your kids out of the indoctrination chamber and you're teaching them what you believe and what you think is right? That's what homeschooling is. So we need to create competitiveness. At the same time, we have to have ratings. We should be rating, because you know what? If a school is only 85% vacated, they only have 15% of their students, and they're scoring a 2% on reading, writing, and arithmetic, maybe they should be rated at the bottom 10% on a scholastic global rating period, and then we shave that last 10. That's where you do your consolidation. And I'm going to tell you right now, again, we interview all of our inmates to find out a lot of information. Another data stream that we've mined is the school. Why have you not learned to read or write? Well, the most common is I was sodomized at 6 years old, put on drugs at 10 or 11 years old. Guys, they're sexualizing our children in school. That's the #1 reason for criminality. You introduce sex. Now it's not reading, writing, arithmetic. Now you've changed them to a biological, a sexual center where, hey, I want Johnny to come in and call themselves Julie for the day, and we're not going to tell mom and dad. That stuff has to stop. That has to completely stop. Sexualization of our children is the #1 decay of our society. You know what #2 and 3 is? Scrubbing God out of our society and killing the nuclear family. We are already planning for divorce. We're doing prenups while we plan for marriage. Marriage is not what it used to be. Our family systems, God, and the sexualization of our schools are the 3 major things that are decaying our society, and I will stop each and every one of those. Thank you.
Local control and school choice. Those are the 2 items that will allow our schools to begin to rebound. I served on the school board for 17 years. Right now, our school boards, our teachers, our administrators, they know what needs to be done, but they're unable to do that because of all the laws and mandates that have been handed down from Springfield. I got my driver's license in 1982. Do you realize that since 1982 that over 700 mandates have been passed by Springfield and implemented on our public school system? Half of those were unfunded, so there's our property tax argument. Cindy and I moved on, and she's doing an amazing job at Full Armor Christian Academy, and we do just that. We will accelerate students as they show, because we all know that a student gets bored, they're just going to fall by the wayside. And unfortunately, public school doesn't allow that. Public school, usually in those classrooms, the student who's is ready to accelerate usually gets held back to the student that's having the most difficulties. At Full Armor Christian Academy, Finley Tate, he's been homeschooled most of his life. He wanted to come to Full Armor, and he should be in the 5th grade. We tested him. He shows that he's going to be in the 6th grade. So we put him in the 6th grade. He's making straight A's, and we're going to, as he desires, to accelerate that process. And our public schools should be doing the same thing, but they won't because we all know why. So again, I've got that, I've got that experience. And then let's talk about the boldness and the courage to really do what needs to be done. To strip the Illinois State Board of Education down to the bare bones and replace those positions with men and women who care, who love children, who want to do the right thing for our future, to educate them properly. That's the hard work, guys. And if you've watched me and how I work in the General Assembly and what I've done since then and what you know about me before, it's no nonsense. We take care of business. And that's exactly how we'll govern. You realize the governor is able to, assign these positions and all of these agencies. You realize that in higher education, it's the governor that assigns the trustees to our colleges. It's all about people. It's all about doing the right thing, and it's all about getting it done. We know what needs to be done. It's time to quit talking about it. Put someone in place that you've seen in action that you know will do it, and that is me, and thank you very much.
Okay. Next question is about concealed carry. The candidates will be asked, will you support constitutional carry and nationwide reciprocity? And if yes, are there any conditions on that? That goes to Mr. Hyder.
I 100% would support reciprocity in all the states. And that, concealed carry, I think, is a right that everybody should have, and everybody actually needs in Illinois. Um, You know, I've gone to a couple places, you know, where, you know, you can't conceal, you know, you've got, going into a theater or something, and I sort of got stuck, I was going to see my attorney, with a mock trial, with the Greek community, which is always very, very interesting. I got out of there and I walked all the way from there, which was basically the art museum, I think, and walked all the way to Trump Tower. And trust me, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe at all. It definitely wasn't the smartest thing I ever did. And you got to be able to protect yourself. You got to be able to protect your family, okay? Even at my home, you know, I like to have a gun on me, okay? Because I feel like that's one of the scariest places that you can get invaded, you know? And we've had that where I live. We've had that, and I feel that you're right. I mean, it's 100% you're right. This is what our whole country is about. I mean, it's the Second Amendment, for crying out loud. I mean, this is something we should be able to do. This is something that should be common. And then, you know, you're not going to get the carjackings, like the sheriff said. You're not going to get things. You're going to have people on their toes. You're going to have people like worried, okay? And you should be able to defend yourself. I mean, that's the way I feel. So, I mean, it's your God-given right by all these wonderful men and women that have died for us. And no one should be able to take that away and just say, oh, just all the criminals are going to have the guns. And you know, and that's the other thing. I don't like in the restaurants and the things where they put the no gun signs. You know, I think you should be able to carry your gun and protect yourself anywhere. In fact, some of the scariest places where you're most vulnerable, you can't have a gun. I mean, how many times have we seen in the theater, right, where people come in and kill people in a theater? You know, you walk in a mall. What about the young man that saved everyone because he, you know, his grandfather taught him to shoot, and he shot and killed the guy with an automatic rifle within a minute and a half. It would have been devastation without that. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's real important, really important.
All good. So I've been the defender of guns. I'm the guy who put the letter out as sheriff saying, I will not come to your doorsteps. I will not take your guns. I will not prey on my citizens. When everything I'm dealing with is gun crime pistols from gangbangers out of the city. That is what I deal with, and I refuse. And boy, that was fun. That was like 150 negative news stories in probably a 2-week period of time. I got persecuted, and you know what? I was one of like 70 sheriffs put one of these letters out, but they focused on me. I had Sean Caston and his band of merry brothers and sisters chasing me around, trying to impeach me, only to find out the only position going to be impeached is J.B. Pritzker as the governor. But they came after me, and I had almost 150 negative stories. I mean, even if it was 2A, and it had nothing to do with me, it was just a 2A, they would take a picture of me where they got me, you know, dressed in black, you know, doing one of these, you know, like I'm the bad guy. And that was the picture they put on every 2A story for the first 2 weeks all that happened. Then the county board figured, hey, let's prosecute the sheriff. Let's get him for this. We're gonna have a rally against you at the DuPage. Now, mind you, we're the second biggest county. So they're claiming they're gonna have all these people rally against me. And you know, they did. They got all 12 of them out there after me, and I did not say a thing. I did not draw. It's not my fault. I want to say this right away. 300 people that were pro 2A filled that county board building till it burst at the seams, and now they have magnetometers, plexiglass, Monterey security, all those things to protect themselves from us horrible 2Ers. So, been through that, but I've already put my neck out on the line for this community, and I'll do it again. And it's because I believe in it. I know, I'm armed right now, folks. I'm my own security. I don't have security. I protect myself. I got a gun on me right now. You kidding? You kidding? And I would not have the hypocrisy to tell you not to do the same. You know why I don't write speeding tickets, folks? Because I speed. I'm sorry. I do. I'm sorry, I try not to, but I do. So I'm not going to write a ticket for it. And I'm not going to take your guns away because I carry one myself. So thank you. I encourage you to all get concealed carry. You need to be able to defend yourselves. That's what our Constitution guarantees.
This is the place to do it.
Did everybody hear that? You can apply and begin your process of getting your concealed carry right here.
And do page.
I concealed carry before the government told me that I had to have a license. I wrote legislation in the General Assembly to allow our judges to be able to carry in the courtroom. Are you aware that they cannot do that? Are you aware, I also wrote legislation allowing our military, now none of this obviously passed, but we, it's legislation, it's ideas that you try to get out there, and it's hopefully, as governor, we'll be able to do that. Do you know that our men and women who serve in the military service are not allowed to carry, obviously, unless they have their concealed carry? There is just so much wrong with this. And as has been suggested tonight, we asked why J.B. Pritzker is wanting to tear down Illinois. And we know that this is a showcase for him to run for president. But when we study history, and our schools unfortunately aren't teaching adequate and accurate history anymore, but when we take a quick glance, as I'm sure many people here tonight were taught actual history when you're in school, you find out that under a socialistic or communist government, the number one and the first thing that usually takes place is the breakdown of law and order. And that is exactly what is happening. So I believe in 100% constitutional carry. This FOID card is a waste. It's a money grab is all it is, because every few years this money that is stacked up from the fees that is supposed to go to state police programs, guess what? It gets flushed out. J.B. Pritzker uses it to fund people who are here illegally. So if you know anything about me, you know that I am your 2A guy.
Amen, Darren. The work that I've done, this is why we have to protect all gun rights, of course, concealed carry. Who wants to guess the percentage of arrests? Sorry, who wants to guess the percentage of crimes that end up in an arrest in Chicago? What percentage? 6%. 6%. Most crimes have no arrests, which is scary. Who wants to guess how many priority one and priority
big
two
caliber.
or urgent calls to 911
That's a 50.
get answered by the police? Just half. So here you got very few arrests because the cops are demoralized and there's not enough of them. Then you get a whole bunch of calls to 911 where there's not enough police available at the time to go and get there. Many crimes aren't even called anymore, right? Because it's just not worth it. Then you get to what I said earlier, you got prosecutors like Kim Fox who don't prosecute. And you got judges like Tim Evans, who's just out, but both of them are out now, thank God, who don't sentence. And so what happens, and we talked about this, it's almost a 0% chance that a bad guy will do time. I mean, really, it's almost like that calculation, which is really sad. And so when we talk about protecting, these guys said it perfectly, we have to have the rights and the powers to protect ourselves. And so we must do everything to fight for those freedoms. And I say this also, I mentioned the part about my father. He was so adamant and strong, and he had tons of guns. Such a defender of the Second Amendment, such a powerful defender, because he knew, as a young man in Poland, he was a 14-year-old. He was in the Warsaw Uprising, and he was a messenger. He was not fighting; he was a messenger. He took a bullet in the armpit. He took a bullet zipped in here, and one went into his shin. And when he came here, there was nobody who was going to mess with his guns or his rights to freedom. So I'm the product of that man. I have not had that kind of life. I've had a privileged life to be safe. But dadgummit, we better protect the heck out of our rights here. Thank you.
Heck, yeah.
We've got an additional question. Let me start.
I want you to know.
What are the first three Pritzker era priorities that you will reverse? If you give me just a moment.
And on that subject, how you feel about Governor Pritzker attempting to tax the pensions? He's introducing some legislation to do that. So along that same line.
Whose pensions?
Yeah, none of us heard that one.
Law enforcement pension.
We got the 50 cal going on downstairs.
Law enforcement. What are the first three Pritzker era priorities that you will reverse? And consider the fact that he has introduced legislation to tax the pensions of our law enforcement
Of
folks.
course. Me first? Oh, well, thank you. That's a great one for me to take first. Yeah. This scumbag, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not going to go there. So, for 7 years, I have had disagreements with our governor. It started with masks. It started with shutting down restaurants, putting cops on mandatory vaccination lists, Safety Act, sanctuary state, taking your gun rights away. And yes, he has had a target on the police from the very beginning. He has demoralized us. He tried to take qualified immunity away from us. That means that we don't have what the hospitals would call a Good Samaritan Act. You know, if we have a check of well-being and we have to go in and see a slumped figure, kick the door open, do chest compressions, save your life, we'll now have to civilly pay for your door repair and your cracked ribs. That's what happens when you take away qualified immunity. So it's already scared our profession enough. Now they're talking about taking away or taxing law enforcement pensions, which is like one of the only reasons your cops are still here in your state is because of that. And it is just so demoralizing if he does this. And of course he picks law enforcement, the bootlickers, as he calls us, the thugs, as he calls us. His partner, Brandon Johnson, you know, we're to be eradicated, the sickness to be eradicated. That's what I think about your law enforcement here in Illinois. That is so demoralizing. We have been 44 people down. My agency is 504 cops. We've been operating for the last 5 years, 44 people down because of rhetoric like that. You know, how about this? How about we take away all the local politicians' pensions? Yeah. And hey, let me double down. I have a law enforcement pension. I promise and guarantee I will take no pension as governor, none. 0 pension. I will not accept a government pension as governor of this state. Will not do it. I would hope everybody else would commit to that. So since we're not going to bleed our people, our citizens dry with what we're doing. I got one right there. He can afford it. Let's give that money back to the people. The politicians have cost you money long enough. And to come after law enforcement, so, you know, we're working on this issue ourselves. We have a 2-tiered fix on pensions that we're doing that doesn't hurt us. We're looking at tax credits, right? You do a lateral in from your, because J.B. Pritzker tried to combine IMRF and 96% solvent pension, that's us, and tried to combine his downstate pensions to take away that pension liability, but that would have just crushed us all at once. You know, though, incrementally it could kind of work, where when we have people come into a different pension system, they pay money and they buy pension credits from the underwater downstate pensions into our 96% solvent pension system, IMRF SHLEP. That would work incrementally and it would stay everything. It would cause the pension system to exist longer. Also on the other side of it, you know what? I don't get 20, 25-year employees anymore. I wish I did. I really do. But I don't. Now we get 5-year employees before they go to somewhere else. So a 401k mobile pension system would now make more sense than anything. That's the alarm I wake up to every day. But it's a mobile 401k pension system that you can travel through your whole career and still keep, and that would work today. So bleeding the liability of pensions on the front and the back end will take a pension system that was built on a system that believed you'd only leave to 65, and it will elongate it enough to attrition more tier 1s where our pension system will still be viable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The Trust Act
Oh.
must be repealed. That's the very reason we're having all these problems in our large cities. The Safety Act must be repealed. Any DEI woke initiative that applies to life for our public schools will be repealed. It must be. As far as retirement, absolutely not. People work for those, they save for those, they're living off of those. My goodness, with all the taxes that have taken place, and most of these people are paying more in property taxes. I don't know how people are living and surviving overall in Illinois. That's why people are leaving, okay? So pensions, I do believe, are a promise. They should be protected. And if you'll notice again on a lot of my social media, you'll see that I am actually meeting with many local unions, having that conversation, because the rank and file, they certainly understand what we stand for, but unfortunately their hierarchy does not. Once again, I led by example. I've served a term in the state house as a state rep and as a state senator, and I refused the pension, I refused health care, and I refused the mileage and everything else that came along with that. So let's restore integrity to government, and let's get these people serving you again instead of serving themselves, because that's exactly what's happening.
It's fascinating to me. Testing. We there? Hello? Oh, sorry. Thank you. I think Governor Pritzker should be kicked out of office the way he calls our federal law enforcement and our police. He calls them Nazis, jackbooted thugs, terrorists, racists. He has fomented an amazing amount of hatred against our police and our law enforcement. And I think that's a disqualifying act for him. And we talk about this because number one on the list, because it has to be immediate. What's happening in our streets is crazy. Pritzker, instead of handing straight from the local jails, just take the criminals, take the illegal immigrant criminals straight from the local jails and just hand them over to the federal authorities. We wouldn't have ICE chasing people in the street. We wouldn't have all this risk, all this damage, all this fighting. Pritzker's made a mess of Illinois. And it's not a crazy idea. Do you see this happening in Florida? Do you see it happening in Indiana? Do you see it happening in Tennessee? You know why it doesn't happen there? Because their laws, their mandates, and this is something that DeSantis did, local authorities must hand over people to the federal authorities. Must. Okay? We are the exact opposite. Local authorities in Illinois cannot, are prohibited from. We are the extreme ones, and so that's the number one thing you change to get back to normal in Illinois. All right? Thank you. Number two is the Safety Act, and we're all going to agree on most of these things, obviously, because we're on the same side here. The Safety Act, you have this poor woman get burned by this man who was arrested 72 times, was a 10-time felon, and he's out. And I talked about this earlier. You've got judges who just let these guys out. You got prosecutors who don't prosecute them. We must immediately, when I'm governor, we will start tracking each judge, each prosecutor, and know who the bad guys are. Because the public doesn't know, right? So if this judge is letting out criminal after criminal, and they're repeating murders and horrific crimes, they need to be booted out. So that's another one. And then important, third, is, when I started working here in Illinois at the beginning, people said, oh, we don't touch cultural issues, we only do fiscal issues because, we don't want to get in trouble. Finances are downstream from culture, right? And what they're doing in our schools, what they're doing in our hospitals, what they're doing in our work, in our universities, teaching this DEI, having boys and girls bathrooms, all this stuff has to go immediately. That's executive order number 3. It's really sad what's going on. In the 4th grade, so down the street from me, in the fourth grade class, there's a book on transgenderism. And they read it out loud, and the teacher even recorded herself on YouTube, so it's on YouTube. And it says something like this: you can be a boy, or you can be a girl, or you can be both, or you can be neither. And you can change every week, every month, every year. That stuff has to go. Thank you.
What are the first three Pritzker-era priorities that you will reverse? And please address the fact that our governor is pushing legislation to tax our law enforcement pensions.
Okay, so I'd like to do the pension thing first. That's just ridiculous. You know, these people work their whole lives. We promised them when they came to work for us and they protected us, we promised them something. And they deserve it, and they all need to keep exactly in all avenues, our firemen, our policemen, whoever it is, what we promised. And that's hard to swallow, and we're gonna have to pay it. But once again, if we can make more money, we'll have enough money to pay everything, just on what we're already charging in taxes, which, by the way, are ridiculous. I think we're at $37 billion budget just before J.B. Pritzker came in, and we're at $55 billion now. So the insanity continues. The insanity continues. What would I change of what he's doing? I think the easier answer is what wouldn't I change? Okay, because it's so ridiculous and so terrible. You know, the Sheriff Medrick here, you know, saying that he doesn't have enough law enforcement and he's been short for a while. Well, what do you expect when you take policemen and you put them out there and you tell them they can't do their job, and you tell them that they have a revolving door on the justice system, where a policeman tells me I arrest somebody and 4 days later I'm arresting the same person again. And let's just say this one, because this one just makes me so upset and so really, I say the word ill because it really does sicken me. Okay, you know, our policemen could be sued civilly now by criminals. So if illegals too, sure, and criminals, but you've got and they instigate you, and they can instigate you, and you're only human. All these men these policemen are all trained so well, but you're giving a criminal a reason to do everything they can for them to make a policeman be aggressive, okay? And they have a brotherhood. Their brotherhood, you know, I've got a lot of retired policemen that work for me, and I've had probably 150 work for me over my time in one of my businesses. And they're a brotherhood. They want to protect us, but they're all brothers. Can you imagine your brother being beaten, okay, 15 feet from you, and you're told not to do anything, and you can't help him because he's a federal agent and you're a state employee? It's ridiculous. I'm going to tell you something that maybe you don't know. You know who you can't sue here? Do you know who you can't sue? You can't sue the governor. No, I was harmed for hundreds of millions of dollars, falsely accused, and then berated through everything. And I came out completely vindicated. And the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to sue the governor, because he weaponizes his position, is what he does, okay? And I'm told I can't sue him. And I go, okay, then I'm going to sue this agency, because I'm so angry. It's literally cost me hundreds of millions. I probably lost 50% of our family wealth. So I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for your patience with us and your answers. We appreciate them very much. That'll be the end of the Q&A session. If you would, please take a 10-minute break, if you would, and we will return here at 7:15. Thank you.